This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Alright, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. Alright, so for today's show, obviously we have no picks to make because it's All-Star Weekend. We'll be talking a bit about All-Star Weekend today and for the show. We'll be talking about Charles Barkley's comments to yesterday. I think it was this morning or yesterday. He said that there's only two teams with a legit shot in the East, so we'll be talking about the East for this first segment. That's what I want to start off with. We'll be doing that. We'll be talking about, obviously we mentioned yesterday that AJ McCarron was going to become a free agent, so we'll pretty much be talking a little bit more about it. All right, give him his own little segment talking about how pretty much where he fits in as a quarterback among the free agent quarterbacks out, and pretty much destinations where he could end up, and pretty much how it affects everyone else, you know? So we'll be doing that. We'll be talking about the two games from last night in the NBA. I think we had the Nuggets and Bucks play, and then we had the Lakers and Timberwolves. We'll also talk a little bit about Kobe Bryant, what he said about how only special players can handle playing for the Lakers. All right, so we'll be doing that. And then for the fourth segment, as we always do, we'll be talking about anything else going on in sports. Probably get some Olympics in there. Talk a little bit about, maybe that's what we'll start talking about the All-Star break too. Maybe. Because as you know, for Friday's show, we usually make picks for whatever's going on, but we have no picks to make, so maybe, like I said, we'll just make my picks for the All-Star game. We'll make picks for the three-point shootout, dunk contest, and the Rising Stars Challenger and all that stuff, so maybe we'll have a little fun with it. But nonetheless, yeah, like I said, we'll do that. Maybe talk some Olympics. Let's see, what else we got? One of the Marlins pitchers said he's glad that Giancarlo Stanton and Christian Yelich are gone. Maybe we'll talk about that too, so that's how the show is going to go, so let's just get into it right now, all right? So Charles Barkley was on ESPN First Take earlier, and he said that he was pretty much talking, like the basis of the whole conversation and stuff was basically what he thought of the Cavs moves and if it made him any better. And, you know, he did say it made him better, and I agree too. I mean, the Cavs, ever since they gotten these four new players, I mean, it's pretty much been night and day from how they were. Now you got them sharing the ball and playing better team ball rather than a bunch of egos on one team because, like, one thing, like, there's a couple of things I've noticed this week is that with Steve Kerr letting the Warriors players coach, people, and it wasn't like a big conversation or topic or anything like that, but I was seeing some people say that Steve Kerr really wasn't a great coach or anything like that, and he was just the product of his players, all right? And I understand, I guess, the logic of that. I mean, if you're letting the players coach and they're still beating an NBA team by 40 plus, but, I mean, we can't really jump ahead of ourselves here, all right? Because as far as Steve Kerr, and again, this is all going to come back to the Cavs at one point or another, but nonetheless, getting back to it, like as far as Steve Kerr not being as great a coach as we all think, like, yeah, I understand it, I guess, all right? Because he did have Luke Walton go out there and he won like 20-something games, I think it was, and people were talking about how he should have been, or at least making a conversation for him being coach of the year, and he didn't even coach full season or anything like that. So then when you got pretty much Mark Jackson building his team up, and the next year they go win the championship, and then just pretty much you got the best players in the league on your team and all that, obviously with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. I mean, obviously, yeah, they're going to question pretty much, oh, is he good? Is he really a good coach, or is he just the product of players, right? They did the same thing with Eric Spoelstra when he had LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, right? People were questioning Eric Spoelstra, pretty much saying that he wasn't really that good of a coach, and his team was taking him to where they needed to be rather than Spoelstra taking them where they need to be. And obviously, as we know now, that's false because Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league, all right? Does well developing players on that Heat team. And if you look at it right now, I mean, this Heat team doesn't have any big name talent. Yeah, they have Dragic, who's a nice point guard. You got Whiteside, who's been having a nice season, I guess. But other than that, I mean, there's no real guys that stand out at you, all right? So it's a lot of has to do with coaching there, all right? But putting it all back together, like getting back to what the Cavs are doing, obviously, what wasn't working with them before was that, yeah, they had a bunch of great players on one team, but it's a bunch of egos, right? There's more to coaching than just drawing up plays and all that, all right, and coming up with lineups. You got to handle egos and all that, and that's what I think what's going good for the Cavs right now, because like I said, you had guys like Isaiah Thomas, you got guys like J.R. Smith, LeBron, Derrick Rose, and that's a lot of egos on one team, all right? That's not even all of them right there. So obviously it didn't work out because all their egos were too big. Now with this new team, you got a bunch of guys who really haven't done much. You got Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson that have pretty much just been losing so far in their NBA careers as far as wins and losses, obviously. Rodney Hood, more of an off-the-bench type of guy, really hasn't. I don't know. Rodney Hood is kind of a weird player, right? He's not much of a, how do you say, like, I don't know. Rodney Hood, like I said, he's just like a weird player, right? The Jazz made playoffs from time to time when he was over there, but nonetheless, I mean, there was no real winning going on, all right? And then actually they finished as the 4th seed a couple of times, I think, but it's just the 4th seed. And then you got a guy like, who else did they get? Oh yeah, George Hill. George Hill's been a bit of a weird player too, right? When he was with the Pacers, that's when they were going to the conference finals a couple years in a row, I think it was, facing off with those Heat teams with LeBron. Those are good series too. Watching LeBron go up against guys like Lance Stevenson and all that, Paul George too, when he was at his best before he got hurt. But yeah, George Hill went from that situation in Indiana, then went to Utah, did all right there the last season, and then actually did better than all right. And then he goes to Sacramento and pretty much, I don't know, Sacramento, you just go to lose. So, I mean, as far as like all those guys going in, you're not getting a bunch of guys with egos. They're pretty grounded, all right, pretty humble because of the fact that they pretty much. I mean, George Hill, like I said, starting off, won a lot of games. Then he was with the Spurs. Then he went to I think he was to the Pacers, then the Spurs, or the Spurs, then the Pacers. But either way, George Hill started off his career winning a lot, and then the last couple of years, he's pretty much been on the losing end, especially with Sacramento. So now, like I said, you get guys coming in level-headed and all that, so it's going to work better than it would with a bunch of other good players. Because honestly, you can't tell me that Isaiah Thomas. Well, obviously, let's put it this way, right? Isaiah Thomas this year has been pretty bad. All right, we'll talk about his performance with the Lakers yesterday. But nonetheless, I mean, if you had to put him and George Hill next to each other and you asked me, like, who did you want? And, like, let's say they were both healthy or whatever, then I'm taking Isaiah Thomas 10 times out of 10. All right, who else did they trade away? They traded away, they got rid of Derrick Rose. Jay Crowder, I think, is better than Larry Nance, Jordan Clarkson, and George Hill. Who else did they got? They got 4 players. And Rodney. I don't know. I think would I take Rodney Hood over Jay Crowder? I'm not sure. That's pretty close there. But I think the Cavs traded away a lot of big talent. But yeah, they traded away a lot of big talent that wasn't really working out. They got a bunch of lower name guys coming in, more role players. But I think that's it right there. You just need players to play the role with LeBron. But nonetheless, getting back to the whole conversation, back to the point about Barkley, what he was talking about, he pretty much was talking about how, yeah, the Cavs are doing well, because that's what the whole topic was supposed to be about. And then I heard him say that there was only 2 teams with a legit shot in the East, all right? It's the Cleveland Cavaliers and then the Toronto Raptors, all right? You know what? I guess, I don't know. I'm not really sure how much I agree with Barkley, okay? Because I think that, yeah, as of right now, the Celtics are probably the 3rd best team in the East. I know the standings say differently because I think they're in 2nd, but nonetheless, if you pay attention to it, Toronto's playing the best basketball, then Cleveland's starting to look really good, plus they blew out Boston in their first game this past Sunday. So yeah, Boston's been on a bit of a slide too, but I don't think that just based off of this slide, we can say, oh yeah, Boston's done. All right. And I'm not saying like Boston's going to make it out the East or anything like that. I'm just saying that they should be in the conversation, I feel. All right, because you got Charles Barkley out here. I remember when Gordon Hayward broke his ankle, you got Charles Barkley right after the game saying that Boston season was done, and sure enough, I mean, it wasn't. They went on to go 16-2, and then now I think, they're the 2nd best team in the East as far as records go, and they were the number 1 team in the East for a while this season. So I think because it was kind of funny. Barkley says that, and then he says, oh yeah, I've only watched 2 basketball games in the last 3 weeks. All right. Charles Barkley is like the ultimate, I think, get off my lawn type of guy. All right. Sometimes he'll say some smart stuff, but most of the time he really doesn't make sense or just doesn't have any substance to what he's saying, right? There's no information to back it up. Because, I mean, Charles Barkley, he doesn't watch really the NBA. He just watches the best teams. He said it multiple times, like he doesn't watch the other teams in the league, teams that aren't that good. You know, I get why, but nonetheless, I mean, if you're going to be an analyst out there talking, I feel like you should be more well-rounded, knowing about every other team out there. And I'm not saying I do or anything like that, but nonetheless, I feel like you should be paying attention to stuff like that. Because for Charles Barkley to go, oh yeah, there's only 2 good teams. Oh, what's your reasons and all that? And then he goes, oh, I've only watched 2 games in the last 3 weeks. Doesn't really help your argument there. But as far as talking about each of those three teams, I mean, each team has a legit shot, I think, to get out. One team or two might have it better than the other, but nonetheless, I think these three teams do have a chance of making it out the East, all right? Starting off with the Raptors, let's talk about that. All right, you got DeMar DeRozan, who's been one of the best players in the league so far this year. I'm not sure really why he doesn't get any respect as far as him being a good individual player. Like, I understand why people aren't really putting too much stock into Toronto as far as them making it far in the playoffs, because they really haven't been able to make it out of the second round or show that they could play well. Because, like, last year, I think they made it out the first round and they got bounced in the second round. Even them making it out the first round, like, they barely got out. All right, they didn't play well at all. Kyle Lowry pretty much, I don't know what's wrong with him in the playoffs, but nonetheless, I understand why the team as a whole doesn't get any respect. But as far as DeMar DeRozan goes, I think we need to start talking about him more as being one of the best shooting guards in the league. All right, you got Jimmy Butler, you got guys like Klay Thompson, then you got DeMar DeRozan, and then after that, I mean, unless I'm missing anyone off the top of my head, it's pretty much like a drop off there. Oh, Bradley Beal too, I forgot about him. Let me see if I could actually. Never mind. I should probably let's see, pull up the thing of the top shooting guards in the league. Because I think DeMar DeRozan, I would take him over Bradley Beal. All right, we got CJ McCollum. All right, let's see right here. Let me see. You got guys like Klay Thompson, like I said, DeRozan, Beal, McCollum, Devin Booker, Avery Bradley. Let's see what else do we got going on here. All right, so let me go. Let's look at 10 shooting guards here. Yeah, so the shooting guard position is kind of so-so right now. You got Chris Middleton and all that. I would take, oh yeah, you got James Harden too, but I don't really think of James Harden as a shooting guard either. It's kind of weird. Like, I think of him more as a point guard, but I forget that Chris Paul is there too. So you got James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, DeMar DeRozan, Bradley Beal, CJ McCollum, Devin Booker, Avery Bradley, and then Chris Middleton, all right? Those are 9 right there. I would put DeMar DeRozan over Klay Thompson. If I had to have one, I'd take DeMar DeRozan over Klay. Probably 10 times out of 10, all right? Klay does play some good defense, and he's a nice little spot-up shooter, but I feel like DeMar DeRozan's game is more rounded as far as him being a scorer. Right? Yeah, Klay Thompson is one of the best shooters of all time, but I'll take DeMar DeRozan because DeMar DeRozan isn't that good of a three-point shooter either. But I'll take DeMar DeRozan because he can get to the hole a whole lot better than Klay Thompson can. I'm not trying to take anything away from Thompson, but I'll take that in the mid-range over Klay Thompson's offensive game. And then plus on defense, I mean, DeMar DeRozan isn't as good as Thompson, but I don't know, it's just something about the way DeRozan plays that I like. So I figured I'd still take Jimmy Butler over DeRozan. I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of tough as far as Jimmy Butler and DeMar DeRozan. But nonetheless, going back to the Raptors again, I mean, they're playing good basketball. One thing that's different about this team than it was about the last few years before is that their bench has been contributing week in and game in and game out. All right, you got guys like Van Vliet and a couple of other guys out there doing well, dropping at least 10 points a game off the bench. And I mean, when you got, because let me put it this way, right? You got Kyle Lowry, you got DeMar DeRozan in the starting 5, but after that, I mean, you don't have any real consistent scores or anything like that. You got Valanciunas, who's a nice little center in the league, but I mean, other than that, that's where you need guys from your bench to step up, and that's exactly what they've been doing. So I understand why the Raptors are regarded as a team who can make it out the East. And we talked about the Cavs earlier, and pretty much talked about how now they're a better team. I'm not really sure how I feel though about them in the playoffs. I mean, do we think that guys like Larry Nance, Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, and George Hill could step up? I know George Hill's been there before, and I think maybe they'll be fine because you got a bunch of other players that have been in the playoffs and played in big games. I mean, you got J.R. Smith, LeBron, Kevin Love, those guys that won a championship. You got Kyle Korver, who's been in the playoffs for most of his career. All right, who else am I missing right now? You got Tristan Thompson, obviously, that was a part of that championship team. So you do have players that have been there. But, I mean, it's one thing to have guys there and kind of talk you through it and pretty much tell you what to expect and stuff like that. And there's a different matter as far as executing on it, all right? Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance have never sniffed the playoffs before, all right? They've just pretty much been players on a lottery team year in and year out. Rodney Hood has been in the playoffs a couple times, played pretty well. Like I said, George Hill has been in the Eastern Conference Championship a couple of times too. So as far as that team in the playoffs, again, I'm kind of nervous about it, but I do think that experience might help as far as pretty much the team as a whole, because this is a new team and they still have to get together and pretty much start winning more on a consistent basis. But as far as all that, I think they'll be fine. And I guess like with the third team, Boston being the third best team in the East, I mean, right now they're missing a score and they're not playing good defense at all. So I do understand why they're starting to slip and why people really aren't putting too much stock into them. But I think as the season goes on, you got an all-star break here. You're going to have Brad Stevens looking at the film, pretty much trying to figure out what he could do to fix it. I think Boston will be back as far as on that same tier with those teams. And I think they still are on that same tier, but they're just not as good as them right now. So, I mean, they're just going to have to figure it all out. You still got to pretty much worry about Gordon Hayward when he's going to come back, or if you're just going to save him for next season. And that's one thing about Boston, too. They've had a plan. They've stuck by it, so I'm not sure if they rush Gordon Hayward back or anything like that for the playoffs. But if not, I mean, you pretty much move on to next year and hope LeBron leaves. Because as far as the East, I think that this is the last year where the Cavs are one of the top teams, all right? Because I do think that LeBron is still leaving. Plus, you got a team like Milwaukee who's getting better, developing, getting older. And you got the Sixers still trying to figure out what they're going to do at the point guard position. But nonetheless, looking like they're going to make the playoffs this year. All right, and then you got the Wizards. You can't ever forget about them because you got John Wall and all those guys. I know John Wall's been hurt, but that team has been playing extremely well. So you can only get better, I guess, when John Wall comes back. But that does kind of raise a point there because it seemed like most players on the Wizards, if you've been paying attention, kind of seem like they think that they've been playing better without John Wall. You had guys like Marcin Gortat had to take a meeting with John Wall and clear the air and all that. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird what's going on in Washington. But nonetheless, I mean, I do understand why the Raptors and Cavs are thought of as the top two teams. But I don't think that we should really be getting away from Boston yet. Yeah, they're the third best team in the East. And yeah, they're probably the third best chance, I guess, out of getting out the East, but I don't think it's time to give up on them yet. But nonetheless, that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking about AJ McCarron, talking more about him being a free agent, pretty much where a good landing spot is for him, and pretty much what he's going to get, what he probably will get paid as far as what the market dictates, and like how it affects other quarterbacks too. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Alright, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. In that first segment, we talked about top three teams in the East and pretty much talked about their chances getting out and pretty much just talked about Charles Barkley a bit too. But for this segment, we're going to be spending it on talking about AJ McCarron, alright? AJ McCarron is a bit of a weird quarterback, okay? He's played 3 years so far from 2015 to 2017, and he's got like this Mike Glennon hype about him, all right? As far as, like if you remember Mike Glennon with Tampa Bay, he played pretty well, all right? Wasn't a starter or anything like that, so they let him go. And then he gets that, 3-year, $45 million contract from the Chicago Bears. And obviously it's not all 15 years guaranteed or 3 years guaranteed, $15 million each, but it's a pretty big contract for a guy like that, okay? And I think that's what AJ McCarron, what he's going to be looking at for this season. And it's kind of weird, okay? Because like I said, AJ McCarron does have a game of playoff experience. And, I mean, I don't know, AJ McCarron, like, it's weird because he really hasn't played much, all right? Was been the backup during his entire time. And I think that the NFL and people around him are basing him off of a couple of games, all right? Obviously, his playoff game where he played all right, and he did play okay, too, when you started a few games for Cincinnati, all right? But nonetheless, I'm not really sure what I think of a quarterback like AJ McCarron, all right? Obviously, he's not going to be the guy that takes your team to the Super Bowl or anything like that. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback type or anything like that. But nonetheless, I mean, he's going to be a guy where he's going to end up he's going to be the starter for some team this year, all right? I really don't have any doubts about that, okay? But as far as like where, I mean, I'm not sure. I've been seeing Cleveland a lot because they did want him at the trade deadline, tried giving up a second or third, as we talked about a bit yesterday. I mean, but the Browns just either forgot to get the paperwork in on time, or celebrating and didn't get the paperwork on time, or Sashi Brown sabotaged it. And that's probably my favorite rumor right there. I don't know. I kind of like the rumor about them partying too much and forgetting to send the paperwork in. But nonetheless, all right. let's say that AJ McCarron does go to the Browns. Okay, they're saying that AJ McCarron could go to the Browns, be a starting quarterback there, but until the rookie quarterback that they draft will be ready. And I think that's kind of counterproductive right there, if that makes any sense. All right, because let's say that, let's play the hypothetical game, okay? Let's say that the Browns do sign AJ McCarron. You're going to have to give him probably Mike Glennon got, or maybe a little bit more, all right? Because AJ McCarron could say I played in the playoff game and played pretty well or whatever. Because, again, that's why AJ McCarron is being so hyped up, I guess. But let's say the Browns sign him, okay? Obviously, going to be the quarterback week 1. Let's say they still draft a quarterback. Actually, that's one thing right there, right? If the Browns sign AJ McCarron, do you take a quarterback with one of those top 4 picks, or do you use that first pick and trade down? All right, because let's put it this way. I don't think that AJ McCarron is the Cleveland Browns savior. All right, and I think if you're the Browns, you got to take the best quarterback available. All right, and whether that's Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, or even a guy like Josh Rosen, I feel like you take him even though you're probably going to sign a guy like AJ McCarron, right? Because again, like I said, I understand it all. They're probably going to have him starting until the rookie feels fine, but I don't think you want to take a guy in the mid-rounds, a guy that's pretty much, I guess they're all going to be projects as far as these quarterbacks go, but I mean, I feel like you're taking more of a risk drafting a guy in the mid-rounds rather than a guy with your top pick, right? Because like I said, I mean, as right now, the top quarterbacks in the draft, top 3 are Josh Rosen, Allen, and Sam Darnold. I mean, it's not in any order or anything like that. It's up to you who you think is the best, but nonetheless, I mean, I say if you sign AJ McCarron, then you go and sign or draft a guy. Probably go Darnold or Allen. Allen is kind of starting to grow on me, but I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird because he's a top quarterback. He pretty much fits everything of the prototypical quarterback, everything you want. But I mean, in Wyoming last year he was pretty good. This past year he was okay, and I don't know. Josh Allen is just a bit of a weird quarterback. Kind of reminds me of a Brock Osweiler type coming out, all right? And maybe that's just because they're both tall and pretty much on the same stature and everything like that. Both had, I guess, pretty strong arms. But, I mean, Brock Osweiler's problem was that, I don't know really. What was Brock Osweiler's problem? Like, what makes Brock Osweiler not that good of a quarterback? All right? Is it his decision-making? Is it his footwork? I'm not sure. But I feel like that is like what Josh Allen could possibly be. Pretty much Josh Allen could be what Brock Osweiler could have been, I guess. All right. Or what Josh Allen is, like everyone's expecting Josh Allen to be, is what pretty much, I guess, they thought what Brock Osweiler could be as far as him in Denver, right? Because when he was out there with Denver, he had the tall quarterback. I remember Brock Osweiler at Arizona State was throwing the ball all over the place, playing well and stuff like that. So people thought that's how he'd be, and I guess that's probably what people think of Josh Allen. But like I said, I feel like Josh Allen is more of a project type quarterback. Like he has the necessary tools and all that, but he still doesn't know how to use those tools correctly, I guess, if that makes any sense. All right, so if I'm the Browns, I'm probably taking Darnold. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd take Rosen, but as far as thinking what the Browns are going to do, I've been seeing Josh Allen's name and Sam Darnold's there a bunch, so I think they're going to go either one of those guys. But if I had to pick between Sam Darnold and Josh Allen, I'd go Sam Darnold, and I understand that Darnold did have a turnover problem at USC this past year, but I think that's something that you could fix up, and pretty much all you got to do is pretty much just help him become a better decision maker, all right? And I guess that's easier said than done because I know you got to go like Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay, where, I mean, yeah, did make some bad decisions at Florida State as far as on the field, and to this day, as far as with Tampa Bay, the dude still can't get out of his own way as far as staying away from making bad turnovers. But nonetheless, I mean, I take Darnold. But going back to the whole AJ McCarron thing, let's say that you do sign him and you draft a quarterback, right? What if AJ McCarron plays lights out and he plays extremely well for the Browns? Then that's just a wasted pick on a quarterback in the first round, all right? And that kind of brings me back to the point. Like, Cleveland's kind of stuck, I think, if you sign AJ McCarron. All right, if I'm Cleveland, I'm not signing him. I'm saying either we go Kirk Cousins or we sign a rookie quarterback. Okay, because like I said, if you sign AJ McCarron and he plays well, then you got to make that quarterback wait. And let's say that it's just the whole thing. Let's say McCarron plays well the entire time he's there. Now you just have a guy waiting back there that you wasted a first round, the number 1 pick on. So I say, forget about AJ McCarron as far as Cleveland goes and draft your quarterback or get Kirk Cousins. And as far as other destinations for AJ McCarron, I mean, you got Arizona, you got Buffalo. Let's see, you got the Jets if they miss out on Kirk Cousins. Let's see, who else? Maybe a team like Denver. AJ McCarron in Denver would be kind of weird, I guess. That's like, I don't know. I feel like Denver has to go Kirk Cousins or you go quarterback in the draft. AJ McCarron is, I'm not sure how much I trust him, right? He's literally the Mike Glennon of this year, okay? There's a lot of stock being put into him. We're basing it off of a few games, and I mean, you better hope he's good. Otherwise, I don't know. And I think that AJ McCarron, he does have the tools, but we haven't seen enough of him at all. We just haven't seen enough. We've just seen glimpses of AJ McCarron, all right? And usually Alabama quarterbacks in the NFL do not turn out to play well at all. I mean, you got Greg McElroy, remember him? I think he was with the Jets for a couple of seconds, didn't work out there. Let's see, any other Alabama quarterbacks that I can't name? I don't know. Yeah, Alabama quarterbacks just aren't quarterbacks who succeed in the NFL, and I think AJ McCarron is like pretty much the only one with the tools that has a possibility of succeeding, but now you just got to wait and see, because like I said, I mean, he's only played a few games, all right? I think he's played 11 games, only started 3 of them, so I'm not really sure what to think of him right now. But as far as where he could end up, if I had to make a pick right now, it's probably going to be Cleveland, but I wouldn't mind seeing him with a team like Buffalo. I think with a team like Buffalo, AJ McCarron could succeed there, all right? AJ McCarron's got to go to a team where they got a solid running back in place, all right? And I'm saying Cleveland as being one of the destinations because I think if they sign AJ McCarron, then they go Charles Barkley in the draft. But nonetheless, going back to Buffalo, I mean, you got LaShawn McCoy there, you got your quarterback, and then for that 21st and 22nd pick, you can spend it on offense, or you can use get a receiver in the draft because that's what they need, all right? Kelvin Benjamin isn't a number 1 receiver. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. He's not a number 1 receiver. He's barely even a number 2, I feel, all right? So you got to go get some receivers in the draft, all right? Let's say you sign McCarron, you got LaShawn McCoy, you drafted a couple receivers in the draft, make Kelvin Benjamin your number 2 and have the other guy you drafted as your number 1. I mean, Buffalo might have a chance of getting back to the playoffs, all right? And again, I have no idea how this all turns out. AJ McCarron could go to a team like Buffalo and end up like a guy like Mike Glennon, all right? Mike Glennon, everyone had all the hype, got paid, goes to Chicago, doesn't do anything for them, plays poorly, all right? So maybe that's AJ McCarron right there, but nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see how it all ends up for him, all right? But that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we're going to be talking about the NBA games from last night, all right? And we're going to talk a bit about Kobe Bryant, and I guess just talking about the pressure, I guess, quote-unquote, of being a Laker. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, so far in the show, we talked about the Cavs, Celtics, Toronto Raptors. All right, talked a bit about each of them. Talked about Charles Barkley comments saying that there's only 2 real legit contenders in the East. I don't completely agree with him, but I guess I do get what he's saying. I mean, it doesn't help the fact that he said, too, that he's only watched 2 NBA games in the last 3 weeks. So, I mean, he's really not as informed as he'd like to be. But nonetheless, I mean, I can't really argue with Charles Barkley too much. So, I mean, we just talked about that. I gave my thoughts on it. And then for the second segment, we talked about AJ McCarron, right? Just got done talking about him. Let's see. What do we say about AJ McCarron? Probably going to get a deal like Mike Glennon, maybe even a little bit better. I could see AJ McCarron probably getting anywhere from, I guess, Glennon's contract is at $15 million a year. I say McCarron probably gets anywhere from $17 to $20 million a year. All right. He's going to get paid like that. Again, there's really no reason as to why he should, because he's only had played like 11 NFL games. I think started in 3 of them. Kind of like the poor man's version of Jimmy Garoppolo as far as what he's done so far. All right, but nonetheless, the dude's going to get paid. I think that AJ McCarron, because I know we're supposed to be talking about the scores from yesterday and stuff like that, so I was going to talk about Kobe a bit, but let me finish up with this AJ McCarron stuff, right? So, like, getting back to it and stuff like that, AJ McCarron, I think, is lucky because he's a product. Like, he's shown that he could, he's shown glimpses of what he could do. And normally, with only glimpses, you wouldn't pay a guy what someone is going to pay him. But he's lucky because the quarterback position right now in the NFL is starting to go down, and there's starting to be less and less talent there. All right, because let's see right now. All right, you got the old guys, Brady, Roethlisberger, Breeze. Let's see, who else? Eli Manning and all those guys about to retire in a couple years. All right, what's after that? Okay, you got Matt Ryan, Stafford. You got Rodgers. Okay, but Rodgers, like, we'll put Rodgers in like his own tier. All right, so we'll put Rodgers in the upper tier, tier 1 or whatever. Now let's look at the second tier players. All right, like Matt Ryan. You got Stafford. You got Wilson. What else? I guess you could maybe put Wentz, but Wentz Torres. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Let me look at each quarterback as it goes through, all right, for each division. All right, you got Prescott, you got Wentz, then you have Alex Smith in the East. All right, in the North, you have Trubisky, Stafford, Rodgers, and then I guess your pick of Keenum or Bridgewater for the Vikings. Then, like I said, in the NFC South, you have Ryan, Newton, and then you got Jameis. I'm not counting like the Saints or Giants quarterbacks, so those guys are going to retire in a couple of years. For the NFC West, Cardinals currently don't have a quarterback. The Rams have Jared Goff. You got Jimmy Garoppolo with the 49ers, but we still got to wait and see what he could do with a full season. Seattle, like I said, you got Russell Wilson. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league after those older guys. And the AFC East, I mean, Bills don't have a quarterback. Dolphins got Ryan Tannehill. He's been a weird quarterback in his career so far. As far as the Jets, they don't have a quarterback. The Ravens, Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is going to become a top 10 quarterback by default when all these guys retire too. All right, then you got Andy Dalton, not really too good anymore. Browns still need a quarterback. Texans, you got Deshaun Watson, who could be really good, but you got to see how he's coming back from his ACL injury. Andrew Luck is on that same level as Aaron Rodgers, but he just hasn't been healthy so far in his career. Blake Bortles, probably going to become a top 15 quarterback when all those other quarterbacks retire. Marcus Mariota, probably going to be top 15 too. Broncos need a quarterback. Patrick Mahomes hasn't played a snap yet, or at least not a meaningful snap yet. You got Phillip Rivers going to be retiring soon, and then Derek Carr, all right. That's not the best league for quarterbacks, okay? Like, I think you got Ryan, Stafford, Wilson, and I'm trying to look. Yeah, those guys, and then there's just another tier after that, all right? You don't really have too many good quarterbacks, so that's where a guy like AJ McCarron benefits, but we'll see how it all ends up. I'm kind of intrigued to see where he ends up and pretty much what the situation is going to be looking like, all right? Because like I said, he's not a guy, I don't think, who makes anyone around him better, but he could become a good quarterback as far as the league goes, because like I said, there's not much big-time talent anymore after the older guys are going to be retiring. But that's all I got to say about that. So let's talk about the couple of games that went on last night. We'll talk a bit about each, all right, get a little bit into it, and then we're going to talk a bit about Kobe Bryant's comments, all right? Talked about how you got to be a certain type of player to play for the Lakers. You got to be able to carry legacy and all that stuff. Pretty much just going to give my thoughts on it because I think we've reached a new time in the NBA. So we'll talk about that after this. But let's start off. We have the Denver Nuggets facing off with the Milwaukee Bucks. This game was in Milwaukee, and Denver won this one 134-123, all right? For Denver, you had Wilson Chandler with 11 points, 4 rebounds, shot 4 of 9, 3 of 5 from the three-point line. Nikola Jokic with yet again another triple-double, 30 points, 17 assists, 15 rebounds, shot 11 of 14, 3 of 3 from the three-point line. Jamal Murray, he had 26 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 9 of 12, 5 of 7 from the three-point line. Will Barton with 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 5 of 13, 4 of 7 from the three-point line. Then you had Gary Harris with 28 points, shot 10 of 18, 5 of 7 from the three-point line. For the Bucks, you had Giannis Antetokounmpo with 36 points, or I had a triple-double in this one, 36 points, 13 assists, 11 rebounds, shot 14 of 21, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. Chris Middleton, he had 17 points, 7 rebounds, shot 7 of 17 from the field. Eric Bledsoe, great game from him, 27 points, 8 assists, shot 9 of 14, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Tony Snell had 10 points in this one. Off the bench, you had Jabari Parker with 12 points, 5 of 8 from the field, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. And Tyler Zeller, 14 points, 5 rebounds, shot 7 of 9 from the field in that one. All right. So both of these teams are the future of the NBA, all right? Meaning, I'm not saying that they're going to go and be winning a bunch of championships or anything like that, but these are the teams that are going to be taking over once the Spurs get too old, whenever that may be, and I don't think it'll ever happen, all right? It'll be like, eventually there's going to be a time where, let me put it this way, right? Teams like, let's go Thunder, let's go Spurs, let's go Timberwolves, okay? Those teams are all right there in the middle. All right. Then you got the upper tier with the Warriors and the Rockets. All right. I think the Warriors and Rockets are going to be good for a while, obviously, because the Warriors players are like just barely in their prime. All right. Like in the second, third years of their prime, going to keep getting better and probably won't get any worse until, it's toward the end of their career. Okay. And it's I'm curious to see too how long this Warriors team is going to manage to stay together. All right. Because, eventually, yeah, winning is fun and stuff like that, but eventually I feel like you gotta want a challenge. Unless, I know it's kind of different, because from my perspective, I've only played like high school sports and stuff like that, and then all the younger stuff, but nonetheless, you're not getting paid for anything like that. So if you're winning a bunch, it gets kind of boring, so you're looking for like a new challenge, stuff like that. But these dudes are getting paid, tens of millions of dollars, all right, to go play basketball. I feel like if I was on the Warriors or whatever, like, and we're winning all the time, it's cool because I'm getting paid millions of dollars to do it. All right, so I guess that whole, looking for another challenge type of thing doesn't really fit there in the NBA. But nonetheless, getting back to it, the Nuggets, they're going to be a top team in the West in the next couple of years, all right? Let's see, I think they are currently 6th in the East, or in the West, I should say. Let me double check it. Yeah, I think they should be 6th or even 7th, possibly. Let me see what we got working with here. They are currently the 6th best team in the East, the 6th seed, tied with the Portland Trailblazers for the same record, but Denver has that tiebreaker over them. They're only a half game back of the Thunder for the 5th seed. They are 2.5 back of Minnesota, and same 2.5 back of San Antonio. So actually, the West is pretty top heavy, actually, now that I think about it. All right, let me look at the East. All right, so let's see. From the 3 seed to the 8th seed, only 3 games separate them. From the 8th seed to the 3 seed, there's 5 games that separate, and 9.5 that separate from 8th to 2nd. So I think the East is more, I don't know, is the West, I guess, how close it's been? Is it just because the teams are getting worse? Or is it that every team is that good, okay? Because the Pelicans, we wouldn't really consider them, I don't think, like a top team in the league or anything like that, but they're only 3 games out from the 3 seed in the West, all right? They're a 3-game losing streak by the Spurs and a 3-game winning streak by them to becoming the 3 seed, or at least right there, all right? It's not going to take, all you got to go is on a little nice run, all right? You got the Utah Jazz, who are 30 and 28, not even in the 8th seed, and they're only 4.5 games back of San Antonio for that 3 seed. All right, so I think the West is really top heavy, and I think we've been pounding it home that the West is by far the better conference than the East. But I'm not so sure, all right, because you got the Toronto Raptors, the Boston, no one can beat the Warriors in the East, or at least I guess they have chances, but that's it, just chances. All right, I think the top 3 teams in the East can compete with the Rockets. It could beat them. All right, then you look at the Spurs, the Timberwolves, and the Thunder. And let's compare them to the 4, 5, and 6 teams of the East. The Pacers are playing good basketball. The Wizards are a really good team right now, and the Bucks are a really young team that play good basketball too. Let me see. The Bucks are currently the 6th seed in the East. They're 32 and 25. Is that? Oh, they just haven't played that many games. All right. So yeah, they're 32 and 25. They'd be about, I don't know. I think they'd be about 4 games, I guess you could say, or 2.5. I'm not sure, because the Timberwolves are 36 and 25. Let me see, 32 and 26. So yeah, the Bucks, I think, would only be about 2 games back of the Timberwolves for that 4 seed. All right. So I think that we got to stop pounding it home so much that the West is so much better than the East, because I don't really think it is. I think because I think the West is really top heavy, and we've gotten so used to the Warriors just dominating and all that stuff. So we figured, what the Warriors play in the West, so we consider that the best of best conference in the best conference in the league. But nonetheless, going back to talking about the Bucks now, they're going to be a team that's probably they're already the 6th seed. Let me see, they're only 3.5 games back of the, or actually 2.5 games back of the Cleveland Cavaliers for the 3rd seed. So eventually the Bucks are going to be a top team in the East, all right? People talk about them as if they're going to be the next best team in the East, all right, over the Celtics, over the Sixers and all that, because the Sixers, like I said before, and I'll say it right now, they need to figure out that whole Markelle Fultz thing, but we've banged it home pretty much enough as far as talking about it. But nonetheless, the Bucks are going to be a real team, good team going forward. I think if Jabari Parker figures out a way to stay healthy, and you got Brogdon coming back eventually, imagine it that's going to be actually tough. You might just have Jabari Parker coming off the bench, or maybe you have a guy like Brogdon come off the bench, because you're going to have Eric Bledsoe as a starter, all right? then where do you fit in Jabari Parker? Because you're going to need center unless you want to have Giannis play the 5 pretty much as like a, I don't know, like a Magic Johnson type, I think. Because did Magic Johnson play center for a playoff series or something like that? Giannis is big enough to where I think you could fit him into that number 5 spot. Because I know the NBA is turned into positionless basketball too, so I think it would work. Maybe you go the starting 5 of Bledsoe, you go Brogdon, Middleton, Parker, and then Giannis. So maybe that's what they do there. But nonetheless, I mean, getting back to it, these two teams are the future of each of their conferences as far as the next teams, like the young teams right now that are ready to take the next step eventually. So we'll see how it all plays out for them. As far as the Nuggets, I mean, imagine if they still had Paul Millsap and he wasn't injured, all right? It'd be an even better team. So like I said, we'll see how it all ends up for both teams going forward. As for the second game of the night and the final game of the night, we had the Los Angeles Lakers facing off with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves won this one 119-111, all right? For the Lakers, we had Julius Randle with 23 points, 9 rebounds, shot 8 of 15. Brandon Ingram with 17 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 6 of 14. Contavious Caldwell-Pope with 17 points, 6 assists, 11 rebounds, 6 of 9 shooting, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Off the bench, I mean, not too good here as far as Isaiah Thomas and Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma had 8 points, shot 3 of 12 from the field, 2 of 9 from the three-point line. Isaiah Thomas only 7 points, 5 assists in this one, shot 3 of 15, 0 of 5 from the three-point line. We had Ivan Zubac with 19 points, 11 rebounds, shot 8 of 8 in this one, and then Corey Brewer with 6 points, shooting 3 of 6. All right. So actually, let me get into the Timberwolves stats before we talk about the Lakers a bit. So you had Taj Gibson with 28 points. That's crazy. I really didn't think Taj Gibson could do that right now. But he had 28 points, 7 rebounds, shot 11 and 16. Andrew Wiggins just struggling in the last couple of games. Only 8 points, 4 rebounds, shot 4 of 11. Karl Anthony Towns, not a good game at all from him. Only had 10 points, did have 19 rebounds, but only took 9 shots, made 2 of them. Jimmy Butler, not that great of a shooting night either. 24 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, but did shoot 7 of 20, 0 of 7 from the three-point line. Then off the bench, you had Jamal Crawford with 15 points, shot 6 of 11, 2 of 6 from the three-point line, and Tyus Jones with 8 points, shot 3 of 4 from the field, and 2 of 3 from the three-point line. Right? As for the Lakers, real quick, their defense is terrible, all right? I'm not sure if it's just because Isaiah Thomas is out there and he's what's making it bad, but nonetheless, I mean, I don't know. His defense is really bad, all right? And as far as Isaiah Thomas goes, I mean, the guy went 3 of 15, was talking on last Saturday about how he got his powers back. All right, so let's look at it right now. Isaiah Thomas, first game, 22, 6 points, 6 assists. All right, second game against the Pelicans, gets ejected in the first quarter. And then third game goes 3 of 15. Isaiah Thomas really needs to figure that shot out, all right? Because if he doesn't, this dude will not be making that much money. All right, remember that he's saying bring the Brinks trucks, back the Brinks trucks up and all that. They better bring 2 of them for me and all that stuff. And, I mean, this guy, he's not getting the Brinks truck type money, all right? It's just not happening. All right, it's kind of like the ultimate fall from grace here because, I mean, last year, I mean, you could like, it was like something you could think about, all right? As far as how well he was playing with Boston, you think max contract, that's not too bad if he becomes the future point guard for the Celtics, the franchise point guard for them, but it just didn't work out. And, I mean, like I said, he just really got to figure it out for this season because if not, the dude's going to be struggling big time to make any type of money as far as what he wants, all right? And as far as the Timberwolves go, I mean, there's not really much praise to go around from him. They won a game that they were supposed to, right? Not really. You don't get a pat on the back for doing your job, right? You go out, you do your job, and it's pretty much business as usual. But as far as the Timberwolves go, okay, looking like that they're not going to be signing Derrick Rose, okay? And that means that Tyus Jones is going to be getting those minutes still. And I'm kind of curious as to see what's going to go on with Derrick Rose. If the Timberwolves don't want him, then who else would take him, honestly? All right, maybe a team that's trying to tank next year would take a guy like Derrick Rose because Derrick Rose, believe it or not, isn't that good of a point guard anymore. All right, was one of the best point guards in the league. Probably if he didn't tear his ACL a whole bunch of times and get hurt a whole bunch of times, probably, dare I say, could have ended up being one of the best point guards of all time. All right, let's not forget what Derrick Rose was doing before he got injured all the time. All right, was one of the best in the league, by far, probably the best. All right, but now we were kind of cheated out of that because of his injuries. So, I mean, as far as who wants Derrick Rose, like I said, as far as next year goes, probably go to a team that's trying to tank or whatever, but I'm not sure there's really much of a place for him anywhere else in the NBA. All right, so real quick before we end this segment, you got Kobe Bryant. Or actually, should we push Kobe Bryant to the next segment? I think we're going to push Kobe Bryant to the next segment, talking about anything else going on in sports. So, yeah, we're going to push Kobe Bryant to the next segment. All right. So, thanks for listening to this one. We just talked about the NBA games from last night. So, like I said, next segment, we'll be talking about Kobe Bryant, look at the medal count for the Olympics event, pretty much talk about anything else going on in the world of sports. So, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked about top 3 teams in the East, talked about the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Cavs, talked about AJ McCarron pretty much because, yeah, we did mention AJ McCarron becoming a free agent yesterday, but I feel like we needed to go more in depth about it. All right, so we spent the second segment talking about him, what he could get, probably going to get what Mike Glennon got, or actually a little bit more than what Mike Glennon got. And as far as AJ McCarron goes, again, I've been talking about it throughout the show, but nonetheless, I mean, I don't know what. Maybe he's just a Mike Glennon, all right? Maybe it's just fool's gold and he's just Mike Glennon, all right? But if I think the worst thing Cleveland could do is sign him because that kind of puts you in a little stuck position there. But nonetheless, I mean, Cleveland does have a bunch of cap space to waste, so we'll see what they do. And then for this third segment, we talked about the 2 NBA games from last night. We had the Nuggets beating the Bucks and the Timberwolves beating the Lakers. I mean, business as usual for both. The Nuggets have been playing good basketball the last couple of weeks, and the Timberwolves really need to become more consistent and just start being the top teams in the West. But nonetheless, here we are at the All-Star break. All right, so for this segment, we're going to be talking. I'm going to make my picks for the three-point contest, the Rising Stars game, or whatever it's called, the three-point contest, dunk contest, Rising Stars game, and then we'll make my pick for the East the Team LeBron versus Team Steph game. I guess not like it matters at all because I mean this could go either way because these guys really don't try. But nonetheless, let's talk about Kobe for a minute. All right. So Kobe Bryant was doing an interview. I think Jalen Rose was interviewing him. They were talking about pretty much Kobe Bryant was talking about that you got to be a certain type of player to play for the Lakers, okay? Saying that you got to understand that you're going to be taking over the Lakers legacy and stuff like that. You got to play up to guys like him and Magic Johnson and all that. You got to follow that. And like it's pretty much just Kobe being Kobe, I guess, all right? Because Jalen Rose asked him like if he would help recruit players to the Lakers, and I mean, I'm just thinking, nah, man, that didn't work when the guy was there already. Why would he do it now? You know, Kobe Bryant has never been one to be like, oh yeah, come play with me or whatever. It's either you want to come play for the Lakers, you come play with me, then come play. If not, then leave, all right? Because there was another quote in the article he had where he said like the most important thing is winning championships, and if like you don't have to like each other, you show practice every day, play hard, and all that, commit to winning, you'll be fine. And then Jalen Rose like, what if they don't? Then he says, go play somewhere else. All right? Kobe Bryant, there's no one in the league like Kobe Bryant, all right? There never probably will be. Kobe Bryant was the ultimate probably. All right, I gotta be careful. But Kobe Bryant, let's just say, was probably a jerk of a teammate, all right? Not really someone to get along with because he had one goal, and it's probably the same goal everyone else should have had, but I mean, Kobe Bryant, like I said, is the last of a dying breed in the NBA, okay? Well, probably was, yeah, it was the last, all right? Because now you got players who are trying to play with friends, and they're starting to treat it more as a business, I guess, trying to treat it more as a job rather than being loyal to a team, go out and win championships and stuff like that. Because now you got guys pretty much determining where they want to go rather than where people want them to go, you know? Because, like, Kevin Durant, prime example right there, okay? Before, you would never see a player like that go to a top team in the league, okay? You would just never see it, right? And I was watching the Draymond Green interview, and he was talking about how during the meeting and stuff that Kevin Durant, like, pretty much was saying that Kevin Durant, one of his questions was pretty much like it's Steph's team and all, and you got Steph saying that he has no problem with it being Kevin's team. He doesn't really care about being the face and all that. And then Kevin Durant talking about that people will hate him if he made that move. And you got a guy like Draymond Green saying that he'll be fine to have his back, so eventually that's where you saw Kevin Durant go. You saw him go to the Warriors, all right? Like I said, you wouldn't see that before. You wouldn't see a top player go to a team like that, okay? It just wouldn't happen. You see a player like that go to a team to where, they're going to try and knock off that top team rather than going to join the top team, all right? Kobe Bryant wouldn't have done that, but nonetheless, that kind of shows you where the NBA is going now. Now you got players wanting to go play with each other. You got Paul George possibly wanting to go back to his home in LA and play there. Maybe you get LeBron over there. I mean, it's just a whole different NBA. And as far as like what it takes to be a Laker and stuff like that, I feel like that's kind of outdated, done and over with, all right? Because you're not going to get a player like Kobe Bryant or Shaq or anything like that ever to, with the Kobe Bryant Shaq mindset, I guess, to go and play for a team like the Lakers. Like that doesn't exist anymore in this league, all right? There's no guys who just want to go win and pretty much that's all they want, all right? They don't care about anyone else. They don't care about being your friend or anything like that, all right? There's nothing like that. So I feel like Kobe's either got to understand that or we got to understand that, yeah, Kobe could say this stuff and all that, but it's never going to happen, all right? Because right now, Lonzo Ball is supposed to be that saving grace for the Lakers, all right? Was probably the most hyped rookie since Magic Johnson, all right? People were talking about Lonzo as if, yeah, he's going to save the Lakers. He's going to bring them back to the top, all right? They've been rebuilding. Like another thing, too, they have like a rivalry with the Celtics. Both started rebuilding at the same time in 2013 or 2012, whichever year it was, and now the Celtics are already one of the best teams in the East, and the Lakers are still stuck in the lottery, So, I mean, now it's pretty much like Lonzo Ball isn't a Kobe-type player, right? Does not have a Kobe Bryant-type mentality or anything like that. Lonzo Ball, he's kind of a weird player. It's almost like, I'm not saying like he doesn't care about anything, but it's like he kind of carries himself like that on the court or whatever. He's just out there to play basketball. All right, he's not going to go and be like a Kobe-type player and talk trash or anything like that. He's just out there playing basketball. That's it, all right? It's like everything else is meaningless. All he's doing is just playing basketball. All right, if obviously Lonzo Ball is supposed to be the saving grace of the Lakers, I mean, that's fine. All right, you don't need to be like Kobe to become a top player in the Lakers and bring him back to the top. All right, you don't have to be like that. Okay, you don't need that kind of mentality. You don't have to be a jerk to your teammates or anything like that, all right? Times has changed, and eventually, I mean, it's taken a while for Charles Barkley and all those other old heads to get used to it because I guarantee you, Charles Barkley and all them think that the era they played in was way better than the era now, but I'll tell you this much. I used to think the same thing too, but these players are a whole lot more athletic than any of those other players before were, all right? I'm not saying that the 90s didn't have athletes or anything like that, but as far as the players we got now, there's a lot more quality, I think, than there was before, all right? People are going to disagree or whatever because of nostalgia. Ooh, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, all those guys. But, I don't know, time to pretty much smell the roses and look. But nonetheless, as far as taking over the Lakers and pretty much the mentality you don't need to be a jerk teammate or anything like that, all right? You don't need to be like Kobe Bryant. All right, because the times have changed. So I get what Kobe was saying, but I mean, he's got to realize that he's the only one that's like himself, right? And there's never going to be another like it. All right, so that's all I got to say about that. But let's look at the Olympics right now. Olympic medal count. Let's see if USA has done any better. All right, I'm not sure how they've been doing at hockey. Haven't been able to double check it, but nonetheless, let's look at the full medal tracker here. All right, so we still got Norway in number 1 with 19. All right, then you got, let's see, Norway with 19, Germany with 15. Netherlands with 13, Canada with 13, USA with 8, and let's see, is this Austria? I think this is Austria with 8. France has got 7. All right, so US needs to step it up a bit more. Let's see, what do we got? I think the snowboarding's over and all that. Yeah, and I think pretty much it's just ice skating. What's the little race that they got? Let me look at the schedule right here. What we got going on for today? All right, so we got curling. That's still going on. Curling's a bit of a weird sport to me, all right? I'm still not, like, I think I have the idea of how to play curling, all right, from just watching. It's pretty much you got a guy, all right, or girl, if you're on the men's or women's team, all right, whatever it is. You got one that pushes the little block thing out, and the other two players, they'll sweep, one in the front, one in the back. They'll sweep, and pretty much I think they sweep in order to get the little block thing going. And it's more, that's not like a block, it's more of like a circular type of thing, whatever you want to call it or whatever. It's kind of like a solid bowl, I guess, if that makes any sense, like that kind of shape. But nonetheless, you sweep it in order for it to keep sliding down the ice, and then you stop sweeping and hope that it stops in the circle. I think that's how you get points, and I think you can knock out the other person's thing too if you're on the opposing team. So yeah, curling's still going on. Curling, I don't know, curling's kind of weird because like obviously it's not like a big time sport or anything like that outside of the Olympics, but once the Olympics come, I'm not sure if it's just because of sarcasm or anything like that, but curling is just like the talk of the town, I feel. All right, you still got freestyle skating going on tonight. Let's see. You got hockey. We got Canada facing the Czech Republic. And then it's the women's Switzerland team playing later too. I'll actually try and watch that Canada game. I really want to see Canada versus Russia in the final for hockey. Obviously, I'd like to see the U.S., but I feel like Canada and Russia pretty much produce the best hockey players as far as young prospects. So we'll see about that. And then you got freestyle skiing after. All right, we got there's a bunch of other stuff that has been final as far as all the other events, but nonetheless, that's what we got going on today for the Olympics. So pay attention, watch those, all right, because it's good to support your country. All right, let's see what else we got going on today. All right, for the Marlins, you had one of the pitchers. Let me go check it, double see it. I can't remember who it was. Let me see if I can find it right here. All right, so let me see. It's one of their pitchers. Who was it? It's last name Straley. All right, but either way, he said that he's glad that Stanton and Christian Yelich are gone. And I think that's more of him being a hurt, I guess, like kind of like a guy, a girl leads stuff. Oh, I don't need her. I'm glad she's gone or whatever. Kind of stuff like that. Because obviously, I mean, why would you want one of the best players in the league to be off your team and one of the best young players on your team to be off your team? Right? It doesn't make sense. So I feel like he's probably kind of hurt by it and all that stuff. Kind of like weeping, wiping the tears away, saying, I don't need you anyways. But nonetheless, there's that going on. All right, as baseball gets closer, we'll start talking about it more. Let's see. Tennis, you got Roger Federer, 36 years old, to be the oldest number one ever in the ATP rankings. All right. Roger Federer is the Tom Brady of tennis. No doubt about it. One of the best, probably the best of all time. All right. I don't know about those other guys. McEnroe, I think his last name is, and all that before me. All right. I'm not the biggest tennis guy, but nonetheless, I've been able to watch, at least pay attention to Roger Federer over his career, and the dude has been lights out year after year, right? Like I said, you got guys like Rafa Nadal and Novak Djokovic and stuff who will look like they're one of, like Novak Djokovic, I feel like is like Aaron Rodgers, and then you got Rafa Nadal is kind of like Peyton Manning, all right? But nonetheless, Roger Federer, probably the best of all time. All right, so let's finish up today's show talking about the Rising Stars game. All right, you got the world team versus the U.S. team. For the U.S. team, you got, Jaylen Brown, John Collins, Chris Dunn, De'Aaron Fox, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Donovan Mitchell, Taurean Prince. You got Dennis Smith Jr., Jason Tatum, all right, for the U.S. team. And this is the Mountain Dew Kickstart Rising Stars game. Got to get that branding in there for them. All right. And then for the world team, you got Dylan Brooks, Bogdan Bogdanovic, all right, Joel Embiid, Buddy Hield, Lauri Markkanen, Jamal Murray, Frank Ntilikina. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his last name. I know I was struggling with it the other day, but it's Ntilikina. All right, Domantas Sabonis, really good player for the Pacers, Dario Saric, and Ben Simmons. All right, this is actually a pretty good world team. So let's see. Obviously, these guys are young, and they're going to want to go out and play hard and stuff like that and try and win this game. Let's see. You got to go with the team with like the flashiest players, right? The guys who pretty much want to show off and stuff like that. And I think that's the U.S. team because you got guys like Dennis Smith Jr., Donovan Mitchell, Kyle Kuzma, all right, De'Aaron Fox. I'm going to go with the U.S. team, all right? I think they're going to be the ones that win. You got a lot of talent here. You got Jaylen Brown, Chris Dunn, Fox, like I said, Ingram, Kuzma, Mitchell probably, I don't know. I think Mitchell should be number one as far as way too early decisions for Rookie of the Year, all right? Yes, I know Ben Simmons is averaging 16 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, but Donovan Mitchell is looking like already like he's one of the better players. I got to be careful. I'm not going to say it. But nonetheless, Donovan Mitchell could become one of the better players in the league within a few years, all right? So you got that. I think, yeah, I'm going to go with the U.S. team. Then let's look at the three-point contest. You got Devin Booker, Wayne Ellington, Paul George, Bradley Beal, Klay Thompson, Tobias Harris, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon. I'm going with Wayne Ellington, all right? The Heat always somehow seem to produce three-point winners in every single event, it feels like. Let me see if I get Heat three-point champions. All right, let me see if I can find the winners. I know they've had a bunch. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. So we'll go year by year. All right, let's see. Last time a Heat player won it was 2011 with James Jones. And then in 2009, we had Daquan Cook. Won it there, and then let's see. There's got to be a couple more Heat players that have won it before too, I think. Then you got Glenn Rice, who won it with Phoenix, or won it with the Heat. Weird too, because Cook won it with the Heat in Phoenix, and so did Glenn Rice. Let's see. Where did James Jones win his? He won his in Los Angeles. All right. So yeah, you got two in Phoenix. There's going to be two in two in LA, all right? James Jones got the first one, then you're going to have Wayne Ellington winning the second one. All right, as for the dunk contest, let's look. Who do we got in the dunk contest? We got Donovan Mitchell, Larry Nance, Dennis Smith, Victor Oladipo. I think Larry Nance is too big to win a dunk contest like this. I think it's going to come down to Dennis Smith and Donovan Mitchell, and I'm going to have to go Donovan Mitchell, right? Just by the way that guy jumps up in the air. I mean, even without even dunking, right? You see him jump up for a rebound and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to go Donovan Mitchell right there. Then let me see. Let me pull up the All-Star rosters for the All-Star game this year. Let's see. I know Team LeBron is all messed up right now as far as injuries and stuff like that. Let's see. You got Team LeBron. Cousins tore his Achilles. All right, let's see who else got hurt. You had, actually, is this updated? Do they have the Dragic and all here on here? Yeah, they do. All right. So like I said, you got Kevin Love who got hurt. Porzingis got hurt. Let's see, John Wall got hurt. But nonetheless, I mean, they still got a pretty solid squad. You still got Kyrie. You still got KD. You still got Anthony Davis. Obviously, you have LeBron, LaMarcus Aldridge, Bradley Beal, Goran Dragic, Andre Drummond, Paul George, Oladipo, Kemba, and Russell Westbrook. That's still a pretty solid team, right? For Steph Curry's team, you got Giannis, you got Steph, DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford, Damian Lillard, Kyle Lowry, Towns, and Thompson. I'm going with LeBron's team in this one, right? They still got a better team, and even with all the injuries, all right? So I'm going to take them. So those are my picks for the All-Star festivities this weekend. That's actually going to wrap it up for today's show. Today we talked about three teams in the East, the top three teams in the East. Talked about AJ McCarron. Talked about the games going on yesterday. Talked a bit about Kobe Bryant, the Olympics. Let's see what else we talk about. And we made my picks for this weekend's All-Star festivities. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. We'll be back on Tuesday, so stay tuned till then, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.